Maruti Suzuki's People Technology presents Suzuki Connect with Navigate to Car and many other features.
Watch more, feel more. Dell.
Okay, then Australia go on top of the table in Group 1 alongside England. As far as the points are concerned, they registered a 7-wicket victory over Sri Lanka, reaching that total in 17 overs. And David Warner there, the star of the show, chipping in with 65 at a strike rate of 150. And before that, you had the Australian bowlers, 2 wickets apiece for Zampa, Cummins and Mitchell Starc. Joining us on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket Info T20 Timeout, powered by Dell, are Ajit Agarkar and Mahela Jayawardene. Mahela, see, this is what happens. You leave the team and then from a winning spree, they end up losing again.
I wasn't there when they beat Bangladesh, so I don't think that was the reason behind it. But they're a bit disappointing. I think the bowlers, especially the fast bowlers, the lengths that they bowled, um, quite erratic. I mean, they should have learned something from the Australian fast bowlers, the lengths that they were hitting. Other our guys had the pace as well, but I thought we were touch fuller and probably gave a lot of width as well. Quite a few freebies for the two opening batsmen who was actually struggling for form, and they managed to get away from us. And I think it shows a bit of inexperience in certain situations against good opposition. But I'm sure Sri Lanka will learn from that.
Okay, Ajit, as Mahela talks about, those freebies on offer. One thing is the due, and which we'll get to a little later, but the kind of bowling, bowling a little fuller as the Sri Lankan fast bowler as well. You had two openers not in the best frame of mind considering their form, and then you offer them such freebies. Ajit, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah, Nikhil.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
no worries, no worries. Just you know, reiterating the point that Mahela was making. I love to know your thoughts as well. One thing is the due, which we'll get to a little later, but the freebies that were on offer by the Sri Lankan Pacers to begin the innings with.
Yeah, yeah, possibly. I think when you have two good batsmen, I think your margin of error reduces even more so. Plus, when you know you don't quite have the runs that you would ideally have liked, makes it even tougher to get away with mistakes. Whether that catch eventually would be costly in the game, we never know. But to give Warner, who's out of form, an opportunity fairly early in his innings was a big mistake. Australia were too good on the night. I don't think Sri Lanka quite got enough runs, and then they put pressure earlier on their bowling. So Australia, much the better team tonight.
Well, there's a school of thought, especially amongst the Sri Lankan fans that I was looking at, on social media and other fans as well, trying to suggest that, listen, if this is how it's going to be so lopsided, if a team is bowling second against a good or a decent batting lineup, you absolutely have no chance of winning a game. Is that a fair assessment?
I mean, there is a certain advantage, especially with the dew coming in, and especially for teams like Sri Lanka, who depends quite a bit on their spinners for that variations to get those wickets in the middle overs. They're at a disadvantage, and I think the Sri Lankan spinners tried earlier on, but the ball was skidding on. You did not see that grip where Adam Sampa was bowling those lengths, where he had that grip and bit of turn, which always going to create that doubt in the batsman's mind. We've seen it throughout the tournament that the spinners have found it very difficult, especially in Dubai in the back end. So yeah, is it a disadvantage? And when you look at the bigger picture and you're looking at the T20 World Cup, so there'll be a lot of pressure on the captains who's going to play in Dubai to win that toss.
Since Ajit spoke about that drop catch, I'd love to know your thoughts, Mahela, on that one. Kusal Pereira dropping David Warner on 18. Was that an incident that could have had an impact on the game going forward?
I think given these conditions, the wickets are the key, and early wickets are always going to help. It was one of those catches that 9 out of 10 times uh, you will take. Kushal probably took his eyes off. Just the slowness of reflection probably cost him a bit as well. But I think it's unfortunate. Sri Lanka could have done with that wicket up front, knowing how dangerous David Warner can be. I think he handled the spinners really well as well, especially Teakshan on the back foot. He managed to hit in boundaries to the mid wicket. So it was a costly. I mean, when you have a batting lineup like that, you need to grab all those opportunities up front, and it was a costly miss.
The one bowler that looked like picking up a lot of wickets on the day, Ajit, was Hasaranga, and we spoke about this in the mid show as well. Probably he would have been the one bowler least affected by Do, considering he is that leg spinner, the wrist spinner. I don't know whether there was a case to bring him in the power play. They usually don't do that. Tiksana is the guy they go to, but with the conditions on offer, and you want to break that partnership that's going hammer and tongs to begin with, was there merit in bringing him a bit early?
He certainly was, because the one thing he does is bowls quite straight. He's got a great googly. Does his trajectory is quite low. Doesn't really give time to the batsman. Especially when they got off to a start. I know hindsight's a lovely thing. You sit here and each team has their plans, and they perhaps, but that's where the instinct of the captain sometimes comes in on the day. Whether you make changes to those plans that you have, it's to the guy on the field, and there certainly was with Warner there. It's always a risk how well he played, left-hander there as well, which worked to Australia's advantage. But the way he bowled, there certainly was merit, and he's done that before as well. It's not like it's a surprise that Hasaranga's bowled well. He generally bowls well in this format anyway. So maybe they missed a trick, uh, but I think Australia batted quite well in that power play.
Mahela, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, I mean, Sri Lanka has bowled Hasaranga in the power play before as well. There was an opportunity, like Ajit says. I mean, it's the captain, the senior group to decide on the go. I mean, the fast bowlers were going for runs in that power play. For to create that opportunity, yes, it was on the cards. That shows a little bit of inexperience in that group, the leadership and everyone, to think on their feet out there in the middle under pressure. So the guys will learn from that, and it's just one game. I think they had a very good World Cup up to now. They came across a very good team on the day. Probably didn't play the best cricket, Sri Lanka. So they'll learn from this, and they need to move on quickly to the next game.
That's
Okay.
sorry,
Yeah.
Nikhil. I mean, that's the thing. Mahela says. I mean, that inexperience you can see in the team. There's no real sort of senior or a very experienced guy to just fall back on. Maybe one or two guys. Most teams have that. Covered the Sri Lanka series when India went there, and you can see how much improvement there is in the same set of guys who played then. So you expect with experience they'll only get better, because there's a lot of talent in that team. Uh, the more they play, they're going to get better. Unfortunately, on the night, it's not helped them.
That's why Ajit, I mentioned right at the start of the show that this is what happens when Mahela leaves the camp and comes here. Till he was there, they were winning everything, but now that he's come, they've registered that first loss. Okay, Mahela, let's talk about the start of the show. That David Warner. Much was spoken about him being out of form, and he spoke about how he's been now practicing on those synthetic pitches, those concrete pitches. Clearly, seems to have helped him.
Yeah, I think more so that preparation. I think it's just the mental preparation for David. I mean, from ball one, he was trying to watch the ball closely, rotate. The clear indication was he played that first switch hit straight away against each, and it was a clear plan. He wanted that shot. He could have gotten out in that situation, then everyone would have probably criticized him. But this is what experienced players do. They play the situations, they have a game plan, and they come and execute that game plan. So I think that's quite important, and you see the experience coming out of David Warner, the matches that he's played through his career, a lot of franchise cricket, all that came into today's innings, and it will continue now. The confidence is going to build. He's going to back himself to play those kind of knocks and bat those situations rather than thinking whether I'm in form or not.
And this is something, Ajit, we spoke about in the pre-show, and you said there's one thing that he's definitely not short on. He may be short on form, but not on confidence. The kind of noises that he was making ahead of the game, and he put the money where his mouth was, because 20 odd runs he smashes. Now remember, this is a man who's not in form. I can't think of too many other batsmen when we're not in form to be as attacking as Warner was tonight.
Look, the pitch was good. I think pace certainly helped. earlier on. But even in the previous game, he had a couple of shots where you can see he looked, even while not scoring runs, he still looked better than Aaron Finch. So you knew if he hung around, the one thing he'll do is he'll score quickly. It's not as if Warner is going to bat 15 overs and score at a strike rate of 80 or 90. That's very, very unlikely unless it's a really difficult pitch. So that once he's at the pitch, he's going to score quickly. He'll put pressure on the bowlers, big fields as well, so he'll run well. Uh, there's so much more to his game, and we've seen it. And such an experienced player, that amount of experience you have that you fall back on when times are tough, which he's done. And if there was one chink, if you like, in that Australian armor was their opening, a lack of form was that place. Every other base seems to be covered, and now they're even more dangerous if these two keep batting well.
If there was ever a point, Mahela, where things slightly got out of control for Australia, was that time where they lost those 2 wickets when Hasaranga came. They lost Maxwell as well. At that moment, how reassuring it must be for a team like Australia that a Steve Smith walks in. He only got 28, but the kind of way he controls the innings.
Yeah, I think if you see in the tournament as well, they're using that floater option where whenever they're in trouble, they send him to control the innings, rotate strike. Experienced guy. There's a lot of power around him, so he doesn't have to take too many risks. So that allows all the other batsmen to take that tempo to that next level when you know that Steven Smith's going to be there. And not that he cannot hit boundaries, he cannot up the tempo, but it just gives that cool, calmer influence in that middle order. So I think he has batted in different positions now in couple of games. I think they're going to use him in that scenario, like when wickets have fallen, to steady the ship so that the big hitters can bat around that.
All right, Mahela, Jayawardene, Ajit, Agarkar. We'll leave it at that. And news just coming in. Adam Zampa, for his 2 wickets, has been awarded the man of the match. That's heartening to see in a game where, you had David Warner notching up 65 runs. But then if you really saw the Sri Lankan inning, it was Adam Zampa that comes in, applies the brakes. And from there on, Sri Lanka don't get the 170 odd that they were targeting. Thanks so much for watching. You are watching ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout, presented by Maruti Suzuki and powered by Dell.
Maruti Suzuki's People Technology presents Suzuki Connect with Navigate to Car and many other features.
Watch more, feel more, Dell.